Welcome to the Biz Life Podcast, brought to you by UNR Extension Small Business Education Program in collaboration with the Latin Chamber of Commerce. Happy to be with you here today. My name is Mike Bindrup, and I am here with my co-host, Juan Salas.
Happy to be here.
We're both instructors at the Small Business Education Program, and we're joined here today with Carlos Gomez from the Latin Chamber of Commerce. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Welcome. And today we're going to be talking about an important topic to everybody, and it's taxes, right, Juan?
Taxes. See, I can see all the faces are just glowing with the subject of taxes. You know, you better smile so you don't cry, right? But yes, we're going to be talking about taxes. And first, let's begin with Carlos. You are in the front lines. You know, you hear about businesses that are just starting up, businesses that are coming out of the whole COVID-19 issues. What do you hear about businesses worrying about, you know, now that it's tax season?
Yes, the questions are, because there are, especially with the Latin Chamber of Commerce, we had access to different grants. So we had the federal grants through SBA, Small Business Administration. They deliver directly, sometimes through banks, directly through the SBA website. But also we had access to other grants for payroll or for inventory. And those grants come from the state of Nevada, like
we had the governor's grant, right?
Yeah, the PETS grant. It was $10,000, and also we had with Clark County up to $25,000 with City Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Clark County, Clark County and Henderson. So we were working with it. They had access to those grants, and people say it's grants. So what about taxes? That's the question we had today. I got that money. I got the forgiven letter authorized from the SBA, but now what with the IRS?
Mm-hmm. That's one of the issues we're going to mention today. 2021, we were providing classes on how to apply for the PPP, how to apply for forgiveness. We had a lot of guests, but now it's tax season, and we need to balance out the checkbook.
Exactly.
And see if we owe money. There was a lot of free money coming out for small businesses, and that was welcomed. You know, that those funds were needed at that particular moment to cover for inventory, labor, and everything else. Businesses needed that money. Now, tax season, it's gonna be hopefully not surprises. I always say that Christmas is the time for surprises. Tax season shouldn't be, you know, because that shouldn't be a time for surprises. And we have a lot of resources on IRS. We have classes here at Extension to avoid those kind of surprises. So let's jump into the topic. There was a lot of communication from IRS saying that those grants are not going to be taxable. They are income. They will be considered as income. But based on the regulations that were passed and everything else, those are not considered income at all. Now, the question is, what happened with expenses? I paid expenses with that. Should I not take in consideration those expenses? Some business owners were, so can I deduct expenses even though I'm not including the income? That kind of, you know, throws you out of balance. But the answer is yes, you can include the actual expenses. So if, for example, you use that money for the grants, for example, to pay your rent, to pay your payroll, your employees and things like that. Yes, those expenses are going to be deductible. IRS says, yes, you should include those expenses as a deductible expense, but do not include that money that you got. The grants, EIDL, PPP funds, and things like that.
So it's now double dip.
It's not going to be...
because people, they are looking double dip. I got the money, I spend the money, I will deduct from my income.
Yes, and that's our mentality. It's like something is not wrong. You know, it doesn't feel right sometimes. But yes, and you have to separate that amount that you got from the grants and the EIDL and the PPP. Put it aside. Don't include it as income because
It doesn't count as
It
income.
doesn't count as income.
Okay.
But, don't forget about the expenses. And now there was some, I think, EIDL and PPP programs and that tell you should keep track of those expenses. What did you do with that money? Even though it's deductible, make sure you keep track of that. All that PPP money, there were some requirements. A portion has to be used for payroll, a portion has to be used for other operating expenses. Keep track of that. Keep track of what happened with that money so you can use the information properly throughout tax season. And we heard Mike, right? Many questions about this tax season. It looks like it's going to be complicated, but if the complication, you're going to avoid any complications if you are organized. Right now, there's a lot of misunderstanding sometimes, but you have to find that tax preparer that understands your business. It's like if your head hurts, right? You're going to go to a specialist that covers health issues regarding your head and things like that. So now we have to interview the tax preparer. So you make sure that tax preparer knows about your situation and can actually help you on your situation. And I'm pretty sure the Latin Chamber works with a vast majority of businesses, different industries, right? So there are some industries that need special care.
Actually, it is. For instance, the question we have is, one thing is PPP, is the Payroll Protection Program money. Also was the protection program equipment, PPP. Plus, on top of that, is different grants from different entities. So, and sometimes they say, you know what, I put it for payroll. Sometimes I put it for the inventory. I put it to pay the mortgage or the rent of the building and regular expenses. But the concern is how to present this information to the IRS. For instance, I got $50,000 for this, $50,000 for this, $25,000 for that, and so on. So I got $100,000 income from different grants. Now my expenses there are $120,000.
Yes.
So meaning that only $20,000 is viable on expenses, not at $100,000 because I got money and the money was for free, so I paid those expenses. But the other $20,000 extra that I spent, that is deductible.
Everything, everything is going to be deductible.
Everything.
Oh, the 120?
Everything, the 120 is deductible.
Wow, well, that's
So
a good help.
It's going to be a great help, and that makes you feel a little uneasy sometimes. But that's why you should try to find somebody that knows about PPP, EIDL, and things like that. For example, EIDL, it is a loan.
Yes.
It is a loan. So do we pay taxes on loans?
No.
No, we don't
It's
pay
not
taxes
income.
on loans.
Not income.
So we're gonna have to pay back that money.
Yes.
The loans. So that is not deductible. If you start paying interest, yes, the interest is gonna be deductible. So there's so many moving parts, and I think the key point is bookkeeping. Bookkeeping and adequate bookkeeping with the assistance of technology. We have a class about choosing the right app for your bookkeeping.
We do in our virtual classroom.
In the virtual classroom. And try to use technology so you can facilitate your life. You can simplify your life because there are a lot of numbers going around. PPP, EIDL, expenses here, expenses there. And we have to keep track of that.
Okay, so the bottom line is all the government programs that we had, they are not considered income.
Yes.
Correct?
All those programs that were related to COVID-19, yes, those are not considered income. And the problem sometimes is that some business owners just go by their bank statements, right? And if you see, okay, I made this much money in that particular month, Or example is if you provide those bank statements to somebody and they just add up expenses and add up income, add up deposits, they do not know that those were PPP funds. Those were funds. So that person is not aware of your business and actually can hurt you.
So you have to make sure to communicate with your tax preparer.
Exactly. Now is
what
the time.
Was income, what was not.
The business owners need to empower themselves with knowledge and make sure that the information that is flowing, the information that is categorized as income or expenses, is the correct one. So we have to put hands-on on bookkeeping.
And how a business owner can access this information from IRS? Let's say, okay, we provide the information here, but they need to be sure the IRS say that. What is the article? Or
I don't think the IRS will have the information about how much you got in PPP. I'm not certain of that, but I don't think the whole
thing is
information
that just to be sure the accountant or who is doing the booking or the taxes, to be sure that according to circular IRS 7 so and so and so, there's those grants programs that are not income.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So they have the legal base in order to do that.
On the IRS website, there's a frequently asked questions section, and they touch on PPP, and there are regulations, and there are press releases.
That answers my question.
Press releases, and if your preparer doesn't know about it, they should start studying about it, because there are many things that PPP will affect your business. For example, the PPP got canceled, right? Mm-hmm. So I went, I got a PPP. I asked for the forgiveness. The amount was forgiven. So what happens with that forgiveness? Now becomes income to the owner? No, it doesn't. No. It doesn't. But this is really important. In the eyes of the IRS, in the eyes of the accounting procedures, you are contributing more. Your basis as an owner increases because you were responsible for that cancellation of debt. So you have more skin in the game with your business, and that helps, because if you don't have what we call sometimes basis in the business, you cannot take those deductions. You cannot take those losses from your business. But that's a little bit of more technical stuff. But it's important to mention that to your tax
preparer.
Yep.
So if I know there were some situations, I've had some small business owners that have told me, hey, I didn't spend the money all on, like I got PPP money. Maybe I didn't put it all on payroll.
You were supposed to.
And I messed up. How do I do that? You have to make sure to explain this to your tax preparer.
Exactly. And maybe that the whole amount shouldn't be forgiven. And some of that can be taxable. I don't know. But those are situations that need particular attention. Mm-hmm. So contact your SBA, contact your accountant, contact the PPP the organization that provided that PPP funds.
The loan for you, yeah.
The loans for you. And tax season is gonna be fun. But I'm trying to be positive about it, guys.
Now when are taxes due this year, Juan?
April 18, because
April 18th.
Yes, April 18, because there's a holiday.
Okay.
On the 15th.
But it's no more extensions like we had for the COVID.
So far, no.
Congress hasn't passed anything yet.
No. Yeah, so just to be sure there's no extensions, be aware that always our mind is middle of April, you need to be done with your taxes, period.
Yes. I think the key for this tax season is going to be patience and organization. Don't jump into the pool if you're not ready. To take the swim, because make sure you have all your documentations, all your ducks in a row sometimes, and avoid amendments, hopefully. So have your information ready, so nothing is going to be missing. There's not going to be information that doesn't correspond or doesn't relate to your business at all.
Juan, and how I'm the business owner, I put always myself as a representing businesses at the chamber, and I will say I'm the business owner. What would be the key words or to ask to understand if my bookkeeper or my CPA is ready to do my taxes? What will be the key words in regards to PPP and everything all involved, just to be sure that he is in the same page as we are?
Let's see. The dream, the ideal situation of a tax preparer would be if the business owner comes with a full balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow report. The income statement is gonna detail all income, all non-taxable income, all the expenses, and your balance sheet is gonna show if you have loans outstanding like the EIDL or any loans like
Disaster
the PPP
loan.
that it was not forgiven yet. That would be the ideal situation. So how do you get to that point? You're going to have to talk to your accountant, talk to your bookkeeper, and talk about the reports, the summary. What are the numbers telling you? And I use this example. Sometimes numbers can tell also a story. It doesn't have to be, written letters and things like that. The numbers will tell you a story. If this business was profitable or not, why was not profitable. So review that with your bookkeeper before those taxes are sent to the IRS. And also, taxes now is basically it's like the summary, the story, the business card that shows the financial stability of the business. And we learned this in 2021, where the financial institutions were asking, okay, just give me a financial statement. I know that you need those funds to start a new project, to buy that equipment, to take you to the next level. So taxes is your letter, your representation of how you're going to repay those loans. Are you ready to take that kind of loan and things like that? I think we learned taxes might be boring, but that tax return will make a difference.
Yeah, and we saw so many small business owners were just scrambling to file for PPP money because they didn't have their taxes done.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't have their reports done. They didn't have their bookkeeping up to date. And all of a sudden, they got caught. And they said, "Oh, I got to hurry and to get this done."
And we never know. Some grants might come back, right?
Yeah, and even the business license expired.
Yes.
We sold everything. Yes, it's possible, and also it's coming more grants. It's coming up, but more in the sense of training, more to get employees trained and get new employees. It's more on the technical part to assist businesses, but not free money until now is what we know. Plus the money for construction, the bridge program, and all those things. But it's coming through different state and agencies, and the money will come there. But again, is if I had my accountant or my bookkeeper, and I explained to him, okay, this is grants, federal money, disaster loan, so don't even put it in the book. My taxes.
Exactly.
It
It goes into a separate section.
Yes.
And how? Because we know the Hispanic community and other immigrant communities, they will try to cheat. They will say, "Ooh, this is money's federal," even though it's a real income.
Yeah.
Don't cheat on your taxes.
Don't cheat on your taxes. Now with technology, and we have heard from some institutions that lend money, the taxes on the bank statements, they look like different businesses.
They don't match.
What's going on? Things doesn't match. You're telling me something, and I see in a complete different story. So
It's
which
like
one?
it's like when you go to the doctor and you're like, I swear I've been eating really well this last couple months.
Yes.
And he takes your blood. He goes, I don't think so, man. You got some problems.
Exactly.
In Mexico, we had all saying we had 3 different bank statements for your wife, for yourself, and the real one.
Yeah, there should be one version, one reality, and make sure everything is in order, but because that's gonna tell the story about how successful
How the business is going.
Are
Yeah.
you ready to take this loan or not? And also in the chamber, we've been seeing a lot of new businesses, right?
Yes.
Some people decided, hey, I'm not going back to my old job. I'm going to start my new business.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to jump in.
The great resignation.
Yes.
Yes, it is true, but at the same time, I believe the people spend so much time at home with ideas, which is great, but bringing to reality is different. In some cases, we see people save money and they're willing to do things and the effort, which is great. We help them out. But there are many, I say many, they don't have any clue when to start. And they start spending money in different things that are not related to the business. So what we try to do is sit with them and say, look, let's start from the foundation. You need this, this, and this. Then that. Then you had your building. Now what? And on that, your $100,000 is gone. Yes, on that. So now you need to advertise, and you need to payroll, you pay expenses, utilities, and so on and so on. So what's what we do? But lately, people come and I need a business license to sell online. It's the most common. Cleaning, landscaping. Home-based businesses.
Yes, they are picking up.
Incredible. But yes, our labor, all of us, is to educate them in the sense to guide them in the right direction, and hopefully they will be really successful.
We have been, I think, successful on that end, just providing the educational component, because everybody loves to talk about marketing, right? Everybody is fun to talk about marketing and things like that. We have an internal dispute here. All the classes about marketing are really fun, and the classes
and
about
taxes
are a
everyone
little
runs
bit
away.
boring, and everybody, just gonna take a look later. But we have discovered that many businesses forget about the tax part. And many times. We tell them it's not a tax problem. It's not like you don't have enough money to pay your taxes. It's a price problem. They don't price their services or the products correctly, and then there's not enough to pay or to comply with your tax responsibilities. We can talk about sales taxes. We can talk about payroll taxes. All those words that end up with taxes, and yes, please understand that if you're making money, that's a good thing, right? But there's going to be some taxes involved. And if you are not paying taxes, something is wrong. You're not making money or you're cheating. Either two.
It's happened. I mean, on construction industry, it's very common. They work hard. They work for 2 months. Then now they had a big check, $100,000, $200,000. First thing they do, to buy a new truck. and we told her, look, when you look at that check, you will look at it, only probably this tiny part, this 10%, 20% is yours. The rest is already spent. And that's part of your investment as well. So you need to move your money around, look for how use that vehicle. Maybe you don't need it. Probably you need more equipment to grow your base, your foundation, and move forward. So it's education as well. Education, pure education.
The Latin Chamber, is pro-business. Let's open up your businesses. Let's grow more small business, ownership. And we are here with the educational component. So make sure you are well prepared and ready.
Absolutely.
To get that challenge. And we were talking before we began the podcast about the new 1099.
Yeah, what's the new stuff coming down, Juan?
It's all over the news, right? everybody's just running away. I think oops. Now I'm not gonna be able to do whatever I was doing before. The IRS is gonna have control
Cancel
over my life,
my vacations.
things
This is
like
terrible.
that. No. We have to relax. There are some new requirements. There's gonna be more overseeing of financial institutions and things like that. But if you are doing the things correctly in the right way, you shouldn't worry about it. Now, all those Amazon, Stripe,
Let's name
Cash
it.
App,
Let's do
Venmo.
Venmo,
all those companies, are gonna start. Yeah, that's right. They're gonna start reporting those transactions, those amounts, if it's 600 or more, to the IRS.
Yes, it could be one transaction or could be 10. Yes, exactly. you hit $600 or more, you will receive to 1099, meaning that's income, meaning you need to report it to the IRS.
Exactly. And that's where good bookkeeping, again, takes
Essential.
precedence, it is essential. Yes, IRS, I made that much money. Yes, I sold those $50,000 in Amazon, but, I had those expenses. Here's the bookkeeping, here's the record keeping to prove that.
Yep.
I only made $10,000 after all the running around.
And this isn't new. No. Do you remember when this happened with PayPal like 20 years ago?
Yeah.
People freaked out, because eBay sellers were using PayPal exclusively, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I got this tax document in the mail. I got a 1099 from PayPal. Like, this is crazy. And it's like, no, it's not. It's income.
Yes.
Income, yeah.
It's income.
No, and let's go to the bottom. People, they're entrepreneurs. It's no question. But they say, this is my sidekick, so this is my money. Nobody needs to. No, that's the mentality behind this. But it's not. And now the IRS find the way, and you sell yard sales, you sell those pallets, discounts, you sell from home, wherever you sell online by catalog, you just hit $600. The payment system, and you can be smart, try to outsmart the system and say, I will use Venmo here, PayPal here, I will use a credit card here. It will hit you because everything is electronic. They will catch you, and they will send you to 1099, and it's income.
It's still income.
Instead of just spending time in try to find out how to cheat the system, just spend time learning about business development,
how to properly do
it, how to grow your business. Let's emphasize the energy in what makes us grow.
Yeah.
And also, Juan, to tell him that, okay, it's income, now it's taxable. Open a business bank account.
It was always taxable.
But it's complete separate for your personal money. So, and that will be a base. So you will know your income. Now you will keep a record of what you buy, where you buy, so that will be to deductions. And now, and your expenses, your mileage, everything. So now is the time. The times in the past was over.
Yeah.
Let's say no más.
We have several classes on this too. And one of the first things you do in business is you have to separate your personal finances from your business finances.
Get your EIN.
Get your EIN number, get it separate, get a separate bank account, and don't commingle your funds, okay? And it's a little bit difficult sometimes, but it's a little more well, I can't buy it with this card. I need to transfer money from one to the other,
Exactly.
and that's the right, proper way to do things.
And then if you want to open an LLC, we have a class about that as well. Open up an LLC. Now choose your tax structure. How are you going to pay taxes? How are you going to pay yourself
Exactly.
from your LLC and things like that? Now that I think about it, we have a bunch of
We have a bunch of these classes in our virtual
Yeah.
classroom
No,
already.
that's great. I went through it, and that's a great idea. It's hit what we need in our community is what we need to know.
Yeah.
Not academia, not those courses that you need to be in 10 classes and then you get a nice diploma. No, what you need, and is there. And also it's 3 minutes. I like the ones that's very short.
The quick tips.
The quick tips. Boom. Like it. Yeah,
Yeah,
really
no.
like it.
We're
Great job.
We're proud. We're proud that
we
can
like
help.
the
Great
quick
job.
tips.
Yes.
Great job.
Well, and one of the strategies we've often talked about is, as Juan advocates, and correct me if I'm wrong, open another bank account that you can put when you get that big check from your construction job, don't buy the truck.
Nope.
Take 15% of that check and divert that into another bank account that you can pay your taxes out of.
Yes.
So any revenue that comes in, you're putting it aside so that you could pay your estimated quarterly taxes every 3 months. And then you don't get behind. What's tough on a small business owner, and I've been there myself as a small business owner, is you don't want to get surprised, right?
No.
You don't want to be surprised at the
surprises.
end of the year. If you get surprised and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I owe this huge bill, IRS also knows you're probably not going to pay that on time, and you're in trouble, right?
And that's one of the biggest misconception is that you have to wait until tax season to pay your taxes. No. It's pay as you earn.
Pay as you earn.
Yes, basically,
So
yes.
every 3 months.
And Juan has a class on how to submit your payments online.
we
It's
do.
super simple. It's really simple to do. I mean, IRS has streamlined everything. And I always tell people, IRS is great to deal with as long as you accurately report your income and your expenses. If you start under-reporting income and over-reporting expenses, you're gonna get in trouble.
And that's a tip that I want to emphasize. Now the IRS website has a lot of good information, frequently asked questions.
Yeah, they become better. Yes.
You can, yes.
No,
we got to a point that yes, we can say the IRS got better. They have
yes.
good tools, and we're not saying this because an IRS agent might see this or not, but yes, they have better tools. For example, you can create your online account. You can see your transcripts if you owe them money, balances, and which is a huge topic right now because of identity theft.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, we got some horror stories about, hey, I got this W-2 and
I never worked here
never
before.
worked here. I got this unemployment compensation, and no, it wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
So yes, it's a great tool to avoid and keep track if somebody's is using your social security number.
And also with the payroll, PPP, the Protection Payroll Program, there are so many companies they commit fraud. They use other people's social security, so it's a problem. Yes, the answer is yes.
So you probably got a PPP and you don't know about it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's true. No, it's
That's a tough situation right
tough
there.
situation.
it's happening. So, and people ask, and believe me, for first time I can say IRS is doing great things. When we communicate directly with them, and they solve the problems, and there are more we need to help. In the
Yes.
past, it never happened. So, for that, kudos to IRS because they are doing good things.
You know, and their communication, I have to say, working with Juan, we're on the IRS website a lot, and he highlights a lot of stuff that they have, and they've really changed how they communicate with the public. I'm on their YouTube channel. I'd recommend you subscribe to their YouTube channel. They have great videos on there that are very relevant, very timely, real quick information, and it's like, oh, I didn't realize that was part of the thing. So
Yes, they're making it taxes fun.
exactly. I don't know about that, Juan.
Come on,
either.
let's support me on this. We're going so well here.
Okay, so what other tax changes are coming
There
out
are
this year?
many. There are
What's
some
new?
other tax changes about PPP, EADL. We talk about. The IRS is looking into cryptocurrency a lot. You know, if you're accepting cryptocurrency as a form of payment, if you're investing on that, you have to keep track. Again, bookkeeping. There's a lot of new business owners that jump into the gig economy.
Yeah.
You know, hey, I needed to make some money. Let's start selling this, Uber, rideshare, anything. Yes, you have to provide information about your expenses, your income. You're gonna get 1099 from that company that you provided services with. So yes, report that. And there are some credits and deductions. For example, last year we had the credit about being sick and not able to work. There was a credit related to I was under quarantine, so I couldn't work. I was a self-employed person, and there was a credit related to that. Or my kids were not at school. I couldn't work. I was self-employed, and there's a credit related to that. But again, if you're self-employed, make sure your tax preparer knows about taxes for self-employed people. And they can tell you more about the requirements for this. It is Form 7202, for example. Ask your preparer, are you familiar with this form about this credit for being sick or unable to work during the pandemic? Yes, no, I can find that out. And as a final thought, I would say go through your tax return. If you see an amount that is, $3,000 and you're not paying taxes on those $3,000, ask. Okay.
Ask why.
Why? Why are you? I'm pretty sure you're happy because you're not paying for that. But go a little bit further and ask why.
I will tell you a reality. And we know because we talk with business owners, executives, and so on. But the question is, when they sit with the CPA, accountant, or bookkeeper, is if I say yes, I make money. Yes, I put it there. It's true. I mean,
it is.
Give the buzzer on that one.
It is true. It is true. But you know what? Who signs the return?
Yeah. There you go.
No, it's true. It's true. And
you still sign the return no matter what.
And you are responsible.
You're responsible
at the end for everything.
Yes,
it's true.
You're gonna have a good laugh, with the preparer. Yes, that's so cool. Blah blah. But if the IRS comes back and asks you for documentation, how you substantiate that deduction, and you don't have the means, hey, there's gonna be penalties and interest on top of that, and that your tax preparers are not going to pick up that phone call.
Let's bring the story of someone who has audit from the IRS and all the nightmare this person went through. And believe me, when the people hear their stories, they will say, "Oh no, I need to be careful."
There's a saying: everything is deductible until the IRS audit.
Exactly. Yes. well, no, and we've talked about it. We have a video on this. How to pay yourself as a small business owner, as a sole proprietor, right? And you have to pay yourself from the profits of the business.
Yes.
You can't put yourself on payroll as a sole proprietor. And I had a client who went, I think it was 6 or 7 years. He put himself on payroll. He paid his taxes and everything. IRS came back, they audited him, and during the audit, they presented him with a check. And they said, here's everything you paid us. Now here's what you owe us. They said, you've paid wrong for 7 years. Here you go. And here's how much you owe us now. And it was like 3 times the amount with penalties and interest. And it destroyed the company.
And this, especially in these times, we need, especially you as an educator, we need to tell the people that sole proprietor cannot be himself or she on payroll. It's nothing.
You cannot do it.
And also, they can do a corporation. They can do LLC. I mean, there are different venues. They can go around. They make draws, whatever is the situation, legal, accountable resolution. Because I see very often, I say, you are sole proprietor. You cannot be in payroll. Period.
Exactly. So let's do it the right way so we can go ahead and keep growing.
Exactly.
Keep growing, keep helping the small business community.
Well, this has been a good discussion we've had today. Thank you, Juan, for being here with us, and thank you, Carlos. Appreciate it. This is actually our first podcast we've done here, and so we're pretty happy about that. This is a great collaboration we've always had with the Latin Chamber of Commerce. We appreciate it, Carlos.
Be in the lookout for the next one. Marketing. We're going to talk about legal issues, immigration, and many other topics.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us with the Biz Life podcast. We're broadcasting from UNR Extension Small Business Education Studios here in lovely Las Vegas, Nevada. Thank you for joining us, and do good with your business today.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.